In the last movie, we created a public controller and enabled it to display pages from our CMS. But to view those pages, we had to actually type the URL that we wanted into the browser's URL bar. Now let's create a list of pages by subject that will be links that will allow us to navigate around the site and view different pages just by clicking on those links. So if we want to be able to display a list of the subjects and then a list of those subjects' pages, we need to start by finding the subjects. So we'll do that by going into our controller for public, and we're going to use a before filter to do it. So that it will happen in both of these actions and any other actions we might add in the future. And let's call it setup navigation. I'll just copy that name, and down here I'll create a private method and we'll call it setup navigation. So what does this method need to do? Well, it needs to find the subjects. We can do that by finding subject.visible and sorted. That'll get us all the visible subjects and sorted in the right order by position. Okay, so now that we have this instance variable subjects available to us in every single one of our public controller actions, we're ready to go to the views and actually do the outputting from there. So inside the views, because we're going to be doing this in all of the different pages, the best place to put it's going to be in our layout. So in the public layout, I already have a spot here for the navigation, and that's where we're going to drop this in. Now, I could write 20 lines of code here that would actually go through and loop through the subjects and then loop through each of their pages doing the output. But instead, I'm going to try and keep it a little cleaner by moving all that off into a partial. So render partial. And the partial I'm going to put in the layouts folder. So therefore I need to specify layouts, and I'm going to call it navigation. And let's pass in the locals for this. Now we don't actually have to pass in the local. We have access to the instance variable there, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway just so that it's explicit what I'm doing. Okay, so now that we're rendering the partial, let's write the partial. So in the layouts folder, I'll add a new one for underscore navigation.html.erb. This is going to be our new partial template. And in order to output this, what we want to do is just loop through each of the subjects and output the subject name, and then loop through each of the subject's pages, the visible pages sorted in the correct order that is, and output each one of those page names as a link. So that's what I'll do here. I'm going to do it as an HTML unordered list, and each element will be an LI. I'll have the subject name followed by another unordered list that has all of the pages inside of it. Notice here that I'm asking for the subject's pages, which are visible and sorted. I'm using those named scopes here. Now putting a link where the text is the page name and the action is the show action, and the ID will be that page's permalink. Now I don't need to specify the controller at the moment because this is only going to be for the public controller. If we had more controllers that were using this navigation, we'd want to specify that too. Notice what I'm doing up here at the very top. I'm just making sure that if subjects didn't get a value for some reason, I'm going to go ahead and make it an empty array, and that way each won't blow up on me. If subjects have been equal to nil, each isn't a method that we can call on nil. But by defaulting it to an empty set, then it'll just come here and harmlessly just not loop through anything. It's a nice way to do a little error prevention, especially in a partial that might be used in a lot of different contexts. Okay, so let's save this and let's try it out. I'm going to go into my terminal, Rails server. There we go. And now we'll open up Firefox, localhost 3000, and I can just go to the root there and I should get the root of my site. Now, why am I not seeing anything there? Let's just double check our code here. All that looks good. Public local subjects, that was my mistake. That should be equal to subjects plural. So the locals, I'm setting the value of subjects equal to subject. Let's try that one more time and just reload the page. There we go. Now I'm getting my subjects. So here we are. Here's each of the links. If I click on it, I get revised first page. There's first page. There's second page. We now have the ability to surf around to the different pages in our site. Now, what's very common in these kinds of navigations is that we want some indication of what page we're on right now. So one way to do that is instead of having it be a link, to be some kind of text, and then we could style it so it would look different if it was the selected value. One way that Rails lets us do that is instead of just link to, there's also a variation on it called link to unless current. So just by making it link to unless current, we'll make it a link unless this is the current page, in which case it will just be this text, not a link. Let's try that out so you can see. Let's just reload the page, and now you can see second page. That's the page that I'm on now. Click first page, and it gives me some kind of indication then that this is the page that I'm on, and it no longer is a link. That's a handy little view helper to know about. It's especially useful when working with navigations. So now we have both a functional public side of our site and a password-protected admin area of our site. There's just one more little housekeeping thing that we need to do. It's a little oversight on my part, and that is that if we go to the admin area. Here we are. If I click Manage Content, there's no way for me to get back to that menu. Now you could add a navigation. You could put it over here on this side just like we did, or you could put it up here at the top. But what I really think would be better is if we just had a back to menu link that went right here. So let's just add that real quick. And we'll need to do it for both our subjects list page right up here at the top. I'll actually just steal this back to list link here just so that we can use that as a starting point. So we'll paste it in here at the top, back to menu, and the action then is going to be the menu with the controller being access. There we are, and it's a backlink. And I'll just copy that same thing, and we'll put it in our admin users views as well on the list at the top, back to menu link. All right, let's just go back to Firefox. We'll reload the page. Now we have our back to menu link. Now we can really navigate around. We have the ability to move around each of these areas and get back to the main menu as well. Now, even though this content management system that we've created is very simple and has lots of areas for improvement still, hopefully it still succeeded at the larger goal, which is to teach you the basic principles of Rails so you can see how the different components and features all work together to create a full-featured application.